everyone, it's me, your favorite Final Fantasy VII Remake shill. And today's video is going to be a bit more of a casual discussion that I've wanted to have. In one of my more recent videos that sparked, let's just say, some discussion with regards to Final Fantasy VII Remake's multi-game structure, and I kind of just wanted to elaborate on some of the thoughts and feelings that I had in that video. While Final Fantasy VII Remake has overcome many of its concerns in the eyes of numerous people with regards to its battle system, one thing that has remained incredibly divisive about the remake is the fact that it's a series instead of just one game. Producer of the remake and director of the original Final Fantasy VII, Yoshinori Kitase, claims that this is the only way they would have been able to produce a remake of Final Fantasy VII on par with the quality and quantity of the original game's content without having to cut things. With him saying had they made it all in one game, it would have been severely abridged, or in his own words, felt like a Reader's Digest of FF7. There have been countless arguments on how valid this was before, and there will be after. Some people even saying that this is a false dichotomy and they still could have found a way to make the game as one. Though I personally believe Kitase, and I believe when he says that it wouldn't be feasible to make all this content in one game. It especially would have been impossible to add anything else to the game. But despite that, I completely understand why so many people wouldn't want that, as there's a near flawless pacing to Final Fantasy VII as its own game. And after all, when I imagined Final Fantasy VII Remake all these years, I imagined it as one game. And before the announcement of the game, I also imagined it being on PlayStation 3 all those years, but you get the point. But ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you love or hate the multi-game structure. Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be what it's already going to be. That doesn't mean that letting them know your feedback isn't important. It just means that it's too late to change anything at this point. And it's not like Square is going to stop the release of this game, spend millions of more dollars to finish the story arc, and then release it. Nor are they going to remake Final Fantasy VII Remake anytime soon, I think. I mean, I say that, but look at Final Fantasy IV. This game is as it is at this point, and it can't be changed, and will continue onward with its current plans. As you already know, I actually strongly prefer the multi-game structure of Final Fantasy VII Remake, as I feel they can fully flesh out each aspect and segment of the world without creating a product that feels rushed or incomplete like some of their recent games have. In fact, I prefer it so strongly that even if I had some sort of divine power to make it just one game that was a one-for-one with the original, I still wouldn't do it. I like the new direction. But even with that said, that doesn't mean I don't have reservations about it. For example, Square Enix says that Final Fantasy VII Remake Game 1 is a full mainline game's worth of content. Midgar being about 4 to 5-ish hours in the original game, we're under the assumption that the main story content of this game is at the very least 20 and at the most 40 hours long. That is a tremendous amount of new content, and those reservations come in when we talk about the game potentially having an abundance of filler content, or content that feels like padding. I genuinely am looking forward to the new content, but I'm hoping that it's all substantial. For example, being able to fight the new Soldier 3rd Class Rosh, or being able to have dinner at Jessie's parents' house and get to know more about her. These are all things of substance that they're adding to the characters, and are some of the things that can only be provided by the multi-game structure. But if this boils down to obvious padding which results in performing fetch quests or go kill monsters over here, then yeah, that would be padding. And this game is very susceptible to that. Another reservation I have about the multi-game structure is that there's potentially a lot of bad retcons that could happen in the story, as Square Enix's new writing in VII's universe has been, in my personal opinion, pretty shaky. And despite what some people might say, I don't have nearly as much blind bias toward FF7 as you might think, or anything for that matter. Now, while many of you are rolling your eyes at me, it's honestly pretty true. In fact, outside of the original Final Fantasy VII, I pretty much have mixed opinions on everything. including fan favorites like Crisis Core and Advent Children. And the reason for that is, in my personal opinion, I found a lot of the retcons in the writing there to be weak. So there is no giving this game a pass just because it's FF7 for me. My excitement from the game comes not just because I like FF7, but because I genuinely think this is going to be a good game. That being said, if the new writing presented here is not good, then I absolutely won't hesitate at all to critique it. Then there's the wait time between these games, which concerns many people. The development of this game started in 2014, a year before its announcement, meaning that Square Enix has spent 6 long years developing this game, which is often brushed off by detractors as just Midgar. It really puts into perspective how long it would have taken them if they attempted to make one massive thing. And while I believe the reuse of assets and code should tremendously speed up development for the next few games in the series, it's still going to take a few years. With that said, if you are conflicted about not being able to have the full story at once, just wait and you will. Same goes for people who don't want to pay 180 United States dollars for 3 presumed parts. You don't have to. In fact, you don't have to buy the games at all. If this practice offends you so much, that's your right as a consumer to not. But again, we're already in too deep for anything to change, so this is how it is. But as long as it would have taken for the quote-unquote complete Final Fantasy VII to have just been one game, you'll eventually get all these games bundled together for the price of one anyways. That said, these aren't episodes that come together to make one game. These are separate games that come together to make one story. And it's explaining that nuance that has provided a headache for everyone involved. And I'm gonna be pretty frank with you, I do think that Square could be a lot more explicit with this, and not just reiterating that information, but also doing so more clearly and effectively, meaning they need to be a bit more specific about their intentions for the future of the remake series. A prime example would be this video. I've been saying that there are 3 games in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, and that's what we all presume, but honestly, it's unknown, apparently even to the developers, with Kitase saying that he doesn't know how many games there'll be in the remake series. 3 just seems like the most reasonable number to most people, and I think it's the optimal number. Being more specific with this information is likely to inspire a lot more confidence. As of right now, there's a lot of anxieties about this multi-game structure. Some of it coming from misinformation, some of it coming from just a lack of information. The lack of information is always the greatest source of fan anxiety, and an anxious consumer hesitates or doesn't buy products at all. Even at the cost of reiterating something over and over again, sometimes that's what it takes before everyone knows. Ultimately, when it all comes down to it, I honestly do like the multi-game structure. I understand some people's hesitation toward it, but honestly, this is the only way, I believe. I genuinely think Kitase is telling the truth, and yes, it is also profitable. There is also money involved. That does tend to be how the whole capitalism thing works, but as long as we're getting our bang for our buck, for me personally, it's a non-issue. And though there are concerns about the multi-game structure that I have, they're just not things that are going to ruin the experience. For me. I can't speak for you. But with that said, Ultimate Weapons, I want to know what you think. What are your thoughts and feelings on the multi-game structure? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go play the demo again. And be sure to follow me at nightskyprince_ on Twitter. And I'll see you on the next video.